Hello and welcome to the Week in Review, your platform for deeper conversations on the issues shaping the Gambia and beyond. Today, we examine major developments, from government efforts to strengthen social protection, digital transformation and local industry, to human rights, youth empowerment, education reforms, and the global football spectacle that is bringing the 2026 FIFA World Cup to a dramatic close. I am Mahmoud Mboch, and I'm joined in the studio here by my colleague, the QTV news reporter, Usman Jatta.
Thank you, Mboch. It's great to be part of the program.
Yes, you are fairly regular in the program, aren't you? So, to our first story today. Well, the Vice President launched a major initiative. It's a 10-year program, or 10-year roadmap, if you can call it that, aimed at expanding support for vulnerable Gambians. Let's just take a look and listen.
Across the Gambia, informality in the labor market continues to increase, with most informal sector workers outside from social security arrangements. When they fall sick, grow old, lose income, suffer disability, or experience business disruption, they often have limited protection. The policy we launch today provides a strong foundation for addressing these concerns.
There we had the Vice President there. Usman, you covered the story. You were at the launching. So take us through it. Tell us about the launching first before we get into the details.
Well, it was a very important event, well organized, and it brought together a lot of stakeholders, development partners, government officials, and community members as well, because it's a national thing. It's meant for the vulnerable. It's the national social protection system that is being launched. It involves a lot of entities in play. So it's a very important program, and it brought a lot of audience together.
Absolutely. So now take us through some of the key features of this policy.
The policy is very crucial, as I mentioned. It is meant to help vulnerable people, vulnerable communities, persons with disabilities, the elderly, children, women. It's meant to alleviate, poverty, to fight poverty in the country to some extent. So it's very important because with the support from development partners like the World Bank, the African Development Bank and the Arab Bank, they're all bring in resources to make sure that they fight poverty, they help vulnerable communities. So it's a very important program.
Yes.
And with regards to the program as well, it's been coordinated by the National Social Protection Agency, which is tasked or mandated with the responsibility to measure or to monitor the success of the program.
Yes, the Vice President there talked about the informality of the labor market, and that what they've got in this policy would lay the foundations. So that's a huge challenge, isn't it? By putting it that way, one was really acknowledging the difficulty of it, because it's not going to solve it, but it will lay the foundation for the solution. And that's the problem, isn't it? People in this informal market, they're outside of all sorts of protections, as he said.
Indeed, it's a very challenging initiative because it involves resources to some extent. And to be more simple, it's you want to eradicate poverty and you want to help people out of it. So the government needs to gather a lot of money, a lot of resources from development partners. But this time round, the government wants to be different, by not relying much on development partners, because in doing that, it will help to lower the risks involved. And in this case, the government has laid down almost a lot of millions, actually, aside to make sure that the funds, it goes as expected. And here we're talking about $18.6 billion, which is equivalent to 35.3% of the total national budget. So the government laid this aside to make sure that to keep social systems within the country to support the growth of this policy, because the policy is a very important initiative. It's a very important program for the government, because it has to do with the people and the well-being overall well-being of the people, basically.
That's it. So, of course, the old questions. Is this a genuine turning point?
Indeed, it's a genuine turning point because
So
this
in
is
terms of social protection in this country.
It's a good one because it comes with a lot of new things like the Gambia Social Registry is involved. You have agencies like GBOS, the immigration. So a lot of agencies are involved, and the measuring the growth of the initiative becomes very easy. And now the Gambia is part of the first countries to establish like a specialized census around a social registry, like to track, to know the people, the number of people and households, which is very important in trying to know the extent, the importance, the amount of people who are affected by, or who are vulnerable to some extent. So this is very important. And in doing so, because in another aspect as well, like some of these agencies are intertwined. Now, in the case of like the National Health Insurance Scheme, it's already intertwined with the data from immigration and other agencies working together as a team. And that makes it spatial, that makes it tracking easy. Yeah.
So things being integrated,
Sure.
for better coordination. This is probably not a fair question to you, but really, maybe they dealt with it. What should we expect to see really in the next 2 to 3 years for us to know that as evidence that this policy is actually working?
Indeed, the policy has been working in the past and it has been very successful. It has lifted a lot of households from poverty. Now, in the first phase of the project, or like in the previous phases, it has targeted almost like 36 districts, and out of 36, almost like 20 districts, were able to register like a successful economic stability, which is a huge success actually. So that is one aspect, but this time around it's going to be more different for the fact that you have got the Gambia Social Registry and other partners working together, the GBOS, the immigration, all working, and with the main body, that is the National Social Protection Agency overseeing everything. It's expected to be something different. You go to other communities, with the money they received, the cash price of 3,000, they were able to buy livestock. And in doing so, now this one special thing about it, there's going to be a proxy means test, meaning like they'll be testing based on the assets that are available in terms of materials, livestock, electronic gadgets, to measure the growth of the initiative.
Thank you very much there, Mr. Usman Jatta.
Yeah.
Well, now from protecting vulnerable citizens to building the infrastructure of the future, our next story looks at efforts to expand the Gambia's digital economy. Well, stakeholders have endorsed the feasibility study for the e-Gambia Power project, paving the way for the report to move to cabinet before implementation. Let's just take a look at this.
It is time for the entire country to get prepared for full connectivity. Every aspect of Gambian life, we want digital technologies and electricity power to have a role in that life. They need it. We are creating the platform. During the course of the implementation, obviously many things will be brought about. We will do a lot of consultation with them. And at the time of that consultation, we need their support. We need their readiness to be with us as we implement this project.
Now, so we just heard there from the Minister of Digital Economy, Mr. Lamin Jabi. So quite a bold, ambitious plan, as it were, full connectivity, all aspects of our lives.
Indeed, I was quite impressed just hearing him talk about full connectivity because of the experience I have got like in China actually, because it's a fully digitalized country and this is what is happening in Europe and in most parts of the world. So I think it's a very important thing and it is meant to promote digitalization in the country, to improve our digitalization infrastructure, which is very important, and in doing so, like trying to upgrade our electricity infrastructure to some extent, making sure that, we upgrade our energy grid, turning it into something that is reliable, something that is clean and digital to be able to help people to access other services like e-meters now at home. when there are some places where you can, you don't need to buy cash power at the start. The meter could lend you money to, like for when you don't have cash power, and you can pay it later. So a lot of digital platforms are into play, and this is very significant for the country because it will help to improve jobs, competitiveness, to make sure that the job market, is accessible to everyone. That is the most beautiful part of it. What this will do is it will help us to have an economy that is alive with or without the presence of people, which is very significant.
Absolutely, especially this power. When we were listening to David Wu, was it? He was one of the participants, who said that now the electricity grid will have a digital backup, as it were.
Indeed.
So sort of one imagines that. Then that will improve substantially our capacity to keep supplying, supplying us electricity, to regularize, as it were. Then perhaps we're going to have uninterrupted power supply. Quite interesting.
Indeed, it's very important actually, because like now we are trying to leverage on technology to move the country's energy sector to another level. I know there are challenges, of course, and with time, with these projects, we can easily, come over those challenges, because it's a small country, and what needs to be done, or the significance of such a project is it will help to also monitor, like to know the required number of the people in need, because when the supply is less than the demand, it becomes a problem. There is always load shedding and other things involved, but it will have some sort of like the social register thing. There will be more of like monitoring, and the number of people using certain services could be tracked easily to make sure that this goes well as planned.
That's it. So now it's like digital infrastructure is just as important as roads.
Indeed.
And that sort of thing.
And it generates a lot of income for the country as well.
Absolutely. So now it's just a question of, this is just a feasibility study.
Indeed.
Where you did the real work.
But this
the
is
real challenge comes afterwards.
Indeed. It's really possible with proper support from partners, and when, like I said, when there is honesty in everything, it goes as planned.
Thank you very much, Mr. Usman Jatta there. Now to our next story. Well, while digital infrastructure connects people, and economic transformation it also depends on what we produce locally, isn't it? This brings us to our next story. The Ministry of Trade is reviewing the Made in the Gambia strategy. Let's just listen to this.
The question before us is simple. How do we build a Gambia that produces more, import less, create more jobs, add greater value to its resources, and compete well in the market? Regional integration alone does not create prosperity. Trade flows production follows investment follows confidence. Our responsibility, therefore, is to create an environment where Gambian enterprises can innovate, grow, compete, and export.
That's what we just heard there from Motke Sise. He's the Minister of Trade. And apparently this initiative was first introduced in 2021, and it wants to sort of strengthen domestic industries, isn't it? By making Gambian goods and services more competitive, isn't it? And what he said there, regional integration. Well, you have to compete.
Indeed.
As it were,
it's very important for the country. We need to be doing a lot of exports to other countries, like to build up the economy, like it is happening in other countries within the sub-region, like in Ghana, in Senegal. It helps to bolden the economy to some extent when SMEs, and entrepreneurs are empowered. It creates the right system for them. This is meant to create more jobs, to create the competitiveness, like you said. So it's very significant to have that. Now, we have got farms in the country, poultry farms like Sabiji farms. Sometimes they can produce up to 800, up to 1,000 crates of eggs per day. Now, you have that, and they are not the only ones. They are not the only producers in the country. So coming up with such a system, a strategy will help them to connect with more buyers, to create more access for them to be a better market for them, to be able to sell their goods. It could be exported to other countries. It could even go to, let's say, for example, it can go to neighboring Senegal per se. So that creating such a strategy would really help, the business atmosphere of the country, and also help to improve our economy to some extent. So it's very significant.
But this is the key. You have to create the conditions, as it were, where then Gambians can make high quality goods, isn't it? That's always the problem.
Indeed.
For instance, you mentioned they're entrepreneurs, but access to credit, that's extremely difficult to do. So we have a long way, as it were, before we could reach, as they say, that critical mass of Gambian-made, products.
Indeed,
services.
Indeed, it is double-sided. Like it needs more improvement. It's a gradual process. Like they will say, Rome was not built in a day, actually. But the thing is, like you said, like the government has to come in force, like to help make sure that the initiative goes as planned. But we have seen improvement as well as to certain projects like the youth empowerment project. Like we have seen GCCI coming up with also initiatives to help businesses. All of those are initiatives. Even some local banks are also stepping up in that case. So I think in all, it's for the better good to some extent. That the country is moving maybe at a slow pace, but eventually we would get there. But it's a very important strategy, when it is well implemented, coordinated. It will really help to promote jobs and also improve competitiveness within the country.
This is the key. Policy documents, that's one thing, but what practical support is there
implementation
to make it into a reality. That is the key thing here. That's the challenge, isn't it?
Indeed. Implementation becomes a challenge, and that is why it's important for all stakeholders to work hand in glove, but not also forget about the main players, actually, the business community. Let them try to communicate with them. Let them try to deal with them. Let them know what their problems are. So sometimes it's very important, to collect data, to know what is happening on the ground. You cannot just say launch an initiative and just leave it to die like that gradually. So it needs, a lot of effort, a lot of tracking, a lot of honesty as well is very important, because it's for the country. It's not for one single person. When it goes right, everyone benefits from it.
Absolutely. And for us, of course, the citizens, the question will be, how do we measure the success of this strategy?
Indeed, that is always the $1 million question.
That's it.
But it's whenever it's always visible. If it is making impact, you see it in the lives of the people.
But you need to have objective indicators.
Indeed.
If in the beginning we are told that in 3 years, 4 years, or whatever, we should expect to see A, B, C, D, then one would know how to hold anybody to account, isn't it?
That is why it's important to have oversight bodies. You have monitoring. Even the National Assembly and other institutions. That is their role, to always conduct follow-ups, to try to understand what is happening on the ground, whether there is proper, growth, proper monitoring, what are the challenges and so forth.
That's it. Any good plan really will have measurable outcomes. That sort of thing. Thank you very much there, Usman. Well, economic opportunities are closely linked to access to education. Our next story looks at a new decision affecting public schools. The Minister of Basic and Secondary Education has announced a nationwide ban on fundraising activities in public schools. Let's just take a look and listen.
Under the directive, schools are no longer permitted to request cash contributions from students or parents, sell tickets to learners for school events, or conduct any other fundraising activities within or around school premises. MOPSI has instructed all principals, head teachers, and school administrators to implement the directive with immediate effect.
There we had our reporter there. Quite interesting. This is partly to reinforce the no levy policy.
Yeah.
So parents are just being burdened with all sorts of charges for all sorts of things. So what do you make of the ban? What do you think?
I think this is what every serious country would resort to, making sure that students focus and schools, focus on helping the students to grow, helping to, improve the grades instead of focusing on money. And in that way, the government only provide the improvement, the improvement grants, and that the schools will rely on the funds that are disposed, which is very important. And in doing so, they would really avoid a lot of, problems, because parents, in most cases, they face a lot of burden, financial burden, your kids will come and say, we need to pay for this particular program, this exam fee and so forth. Sometimes it becomes very challenging, in an economy where people are surviving, from hand to mouth. So it becomes very challenging sometimes for parents. So I think it's a very good initiative that will really go very well to support, parents and also improve the school system.
I remember when we were younger, we used to have a kind of food sales on the school grounds. So do you think that this sort of blanket ban on what? No cash contributions, sell tickets or to students for school activities or events or organized fundraising activities or no around school premises. Do you think that that's okay? This almost blanket ban on all sorts of activities that might generate some kind of money for the school? I
think it's going to create proper, responsible programs to some extent, because if anything is going to happen, it's going to be well calculated. Like, even if there are going to be tickets, it could be, let's say, like the ministry could take the responsibility, like to buy the tickets to some extent, just for like based on like the funds that are provided by the government. Because from now on, like most of these programs have been, banned, like they are no more allowed to take place. So, which is very important because a lot of activities are involved. We hear a lot of, problems in town, murder cases and so forth. So protecting the children is very, very important, to some extent. It's for their own good, though it may come with some cost, but it's normal. Everything that is good comes with comes with some challenges, but I think it's significant for them.
That's it, and this is part of broader reforms, isn't it?
Indeed.
There was earlier a ban on soliciting donations, as it were, for schools, and graduation ceremonies for early childhood development and lower basic school, and inter-house sports competitions in public schools. So broadly taken, when you take all of this together, what do you think the Minister of Basic Education, what message is it sending out there?
He's just trying to make sure that trying to make life easy for parents, but aside from that, also trying to protect the integrity of the children and the school-going children, basically, because they are exposed to a lot of problems out there. You walk around, you see school children begging. We have this particular program. We need funds for A, B, and C. Sometimes around the beach in various setups, which is not safe. It is not very safe because somebody could bribe, could give you money to get something from you. The person could kidnap you. We hear a lot of cases of people missing. So I think this is very important to some extent. It will really help to create focus, to make sure that, students focus on academics rather than just making money. Schools focus on making money and children, loitering. So I think it's very important.
Yes, but still, perhaps we might allow space for schools to mobilize resources.
So this is what I'm saying.
It
has to be responsible, not the open way, and probably it has to be something discussed with the ministry before you can go on with it. And that is exactly, to some extent, that is what someone could argue on it, because the ministry oversees the schools, and these are, public schools in this case. So it's important to monitor, to know what happens in the schools.
Thank you very much there, Mr. Usman Jatta. Now from education rights to broader human rights protection, the National Human Rights Commission released the 2025 State of Human Rights in this country. Let's just take a look and listen.
We did receive over 60 complaints. We were able to resolve half of them through investigation, mediation, and recommendation. We conducted prison and police station monitoring. We continue to monitor implementation of the TRRC recommendation. The current human rights issues and concerns of the NHRC, although we would say that there has been some notable progress, there are some positive developments. For example, the review and having a new Criminal Offences Act 2025, the Criminal Procedure Act of 2025, the establishment of a Reparation Commission, I think it's progress as well. We did have the Anti-Corruption Act. There has been, despite some challenges, there has been increase in civic space.
There we just have Emmanuel Daniel Juve. He is the chairperson of the Human Rights Commission. As we heard there, there's progress, but there's also warning of continuing challenges.
Indeed, indeed. It shows, like you said, like there's a lot of reform that took place from 2017 to date, actually, but more needs to be done, actually. Like in the case of like a detention centers, you know, so in some places, you know, recording is still a problem, you know. The sanitation, you know, communication, a lot of things are involved, and it needs some improvement, despite the fact that like the government, when according to the NHRC, when they consulted the government about some of the detention centers, they did respond that like they're building a prison, which is quite commendable to some extent. But like in the case of like police stations, you know, the sanitation around and like the rehabilitation areas, they are not in good condition, like in most of the selected police stations around. So a lot of things is happening, and also they have raised concerns. The public have raised concerns about like a frequent murder cases, you know, which is happening, which is a concern. So the country's human rights situation is more of like, it's like half and half to some extent. There is improvement in, you could say mentally, you know, someone will tell you, now we have democracy, we have this freedom A and B, but on the other side as well.
There as well, the legislation we are putting in place as well. So it's listed there, areas in which we are making progress.
Yeah, the Criminal Procedure Act, you know, the Anti-Corruption Act, you know, the Reparations Commission and so forth. They're all important. You know?
But you also highlighted the conditions in prison as well, the police as well. So that's the issue. Now the focus must be on these challenges that remain and see how we can improve them.
And with that, the NHRC is calling on partners like the National Assembly, you know, to do their oversight functions, because, you know, they are the ones, like, especially on the side of the TRRC implementation, like they are calling on them to do their oversight function to make sure that they put how do I call it? They put the government like to book, and we are talking about the executive in this place to make sure that, you know, they put in, they take the implementation of the TRRC recommendations, you know, in good hands. If not, it's going to affect the implementation.
But you realize that with us, whenever we need to implement something, when it involves money, resources, then that sort of stalls it, that drags it, that it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
In all areas, isn't it?
So that's the problem. Like the commitment matters a lot, you know, and the prioritization also matters a lot, because sometimes if you raise the question of we don't have money, it becomes a problem, because we see things are happening, programs are being launched, you know, vehicles are being given to like party officials and so forth. So sometimes people will raise the question, is the government really serious about some of these things? But as the NHRC calls, they all have to come together and make sure that, you know, they move forward the country. It cannot be done by one person.
That's it. I think you've mentioned the right word there, prioritization. That takes us straight to a break. We'll be right back. We have 5 more stories to go. Hello, welcome back to the Week in Review. I'm Mamudu Mojan. I'm joined today by my colleague Usman Jata. We've already done 5 stories, so to the next 5, there are often 10 stories in the whole program. So what is it? The National Agency Against Trafficking in Persons says it has rescued 11 children from labor exploitation. Let's just take a look and listen.
These individuals that have been rescued were working in construction sites for Gambians. Imagine seeing a 12-year-old in a huge construction building, tying rods and doing all of that. Just to the eye, you know it is wrong. It is a matter that is still under investigation, so it may be prejudice for me to say one thing or the other, but just to implore on the public to continue to be vigilant. The government has set up NATIP to do its job, but we cannot do it alone. We need everyone on the ground, all eyes, all ears, to make sure that we register greater successes in the fight against human trafficking in the Gambia and across the sub-region.
That was Isa Tudabo, the Executive Director of NATIP. Quite fascinating there. 11 construction sites,
yeah.
And I think she mentioned Gambians, really to put it in focus, that this is what we are doing to our own children. But we see this all over the place, be it transport with these apprentices and or the mechanics. You see kids. So in many areas, you know, we break the law when it comes to kids.
That's a fact, actually, we break the law. But like, it's also a question of like, what is the government doing, or what are like stakeholders doing, like to help make sure that they drive those kids like into the right place, or to schools, or to TVET centers. Is important, actually, because they're like they're into those TVET jobs and they are being exploited to some extent. So what about if they are taken to the institutions where they can learn the trades instead of being exploited? So it's something that the government could leverage on, despite the fact that they have been exploited. It's a lesson to learn from, actually. Not everyone can go to like public schools to learn A, B, and C, but like in other countries, you have got TVET centers. Like we have TVET centers in this country, but these are specialized TVET centers where children would learn like TVET activities from a very young age, and they become professionals before leaving those schools.
No, but here I think we're talking about child labor, which is sort of slightly different. I once spoke to the Minister of Gender and Children, and where she said to me, well, these people perhaps with the mechanics or apprentices, whatever, they are learning skills. Which is true, but is that the point of education for children? So is it merely the acquisition of skills, especially when they become children? Maybe when they've finished grade 12, that's it. This is really what we're talking about. Even grade 9, you know what I mean? Perhaps any grade.
So it becomes a balance as well of like how society sees what is child's right and like normal work, or what is exploitation to some extent. A lot of people cannot differentiate between these two. So it's important for parents to understand what infringes like the rights of a child and what will not do that. So it's important. I'm glad that she mentioned that, you know, everybody should be like watchful, you know, to these actions, especially parents, which is very important, because in most cases, when your child is out there, you know that he's out to do this A, B, and C. Like before starting work, all of us pass through this. Like you'll be making blocks, you know, you'll go to places, mechanic shops to make money to some extent.
That's it.
So it requires some coordinative, you know, action.
Absolutely, and regulation, and even where one agrees that, okay, they're acquiring skills, granted, is there any regulation protecting them?
That is
enforceable. See, this is the key, because most of these establishments are informal. So what kind of regulation can you have in place? And you have the capacity, the resources to enforce them uniformly. Otherwise, you see that they just target a few, and whilst the whole country, everybody's doing it. So this is the key, the protection and how we enforce that protection.
And that enforcement comes with a lot of monitoring as well. So it's important, like you said, it cannot be one-sided. Like today, these people are spotted, and tomorrow, you know, we are relaxed. So it has to be like something that we are serious about, you know, tackling, you know, child or labor or exploitation to some extent, to make sure that, you know, we protect their rights, because they also have rights, you know, and they can be exploited without their knowledge to some extent.
Absolutely. Thank you very much there, Usman Jata. We now turn to the passing of Hadja Andree Toure, the widow of the first president of Guinea, Sekou Toure. Let's just take a look and listen.
In recent years, President Mamadi Doumbouya visited the former First Lady several times and oversaw the return of much of the Toure family's confiscated property. Following her death, he paid tribute to her strength, courage and lifelong service to Guinea, saying her person represents the loss of an important part of the nation's collective memory. On Sunday, Andree Toure was laid to rest following a state funeral broadcast across Guinea, attended by senior government officials and thousands of citizens paying their final respects.
Yes, a massive loss there. You see, with us, mostly when we discuss these things, or the generation, as it were, that gained independence, we tend to focus more on the husbands, not realizing how much the wives really had provided the rock, as it were, the bedrock for these men to go and achieve everything that they did. So it's always really a partnership, isn't it?
Indeed.
So that's really quite extraordinary. Not surprised there. Doumbouya had been going to her and paying respects.
As the saying goes, behind every successful man, there is a woman.
A strong one.
A strong one.
Very strong woman.
Yeah. So she has really stood with the husband, Sekou Toure, way before independence, again in independence, and she has represented Guinea for almost like quarter a century in various functions. Like she has been with the husband at the UN when he was speaking at the UN, and that has really gathered a lot of international momentum. To the extent that they were featured in one of the top magazines of the time, the Ebony magazine, which was the top magazines of the time.
Ebony, Ebony magazine. Yes, I saw that exactly. They were quite a couple.
Indeed,
really.
Indeed. So it was. They had a very crucial relationship, which showed a lot of courage. But at the end of the day, she had to pay for some price. That is go to jail for 8 years before she could go to. She was then. When the latter part went for exile.
This was during the coup after the husband was toppled, 1984, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like
and
that.
And then,
she went on exile, and after coming from exile, that was when she decided to come and stay peacefully without, engaging in any major activity. And actually, Doumbouya is quite commendable in coming to visit her, where he has seen a lot of assets of the family which was seized, and they are now returned actually. So I think it's a huge loss for Guinea. It shows courage, and it also shows the history of the country's history, which is linked to the late Sekou Toure.
That's it. So it's the generation. That generation that gained independence.
Indeed.
They are all dying, and she must be amongst the last surviving member of that generation.
She's a reminder of that.
Absolutely. Our condolences to our family. We have to cherish our legacy. Thank you very much there. Now, to our next story, we go to Sierra Leone, where it has been announced that charges against the former president, Ernest Bai Koroma, have been dropped. Let's just take a look and listen.
The legal saga concluded when the Office of the Attorney General announced it had formally discontinued all criminal proceedings against Koroma. The government said the former president was free to return to Sierra Leone whenever he wished after completing his medical treatment. Although no official reason was given, political observers viewed the decision as an effort to promote national reconciliation.
Yes, we heard there our correspondent, Mam Nabuka. So he had been accused of being involved, isn't it, in the failed coup attempt in November 2023.
Yeah.
This was following the attacks. It was in the prison, I think, in Freetown.
Yeah.
So he was implicated in it. But now things have taken a dramatic turn.
Indeed. Yeah.
So now all charges sort of dropped.
Yeah, they are all dropped actually. And despite the fact that they have not released any official reasons for it, but many think it's as a result of he was released on health grounds actually. But his legal team, did an investigation showed that he was not linked to any of those, the things charges that were levied against him. In fact, he pleaded he pleaded not guilty actually against to all the charges.
Well, he said he denied all the charges.
Yeah, he denied.
So he didn't go to court to plead or not plead.
So
once the allegations were made, he denied all the charges. So all the allegations, let's put it that way. He denied all the allegations.
And analysts are also saying that the government did this to promote national reconciliation to some extent, and you could mirror this to that of Gambia, but in a different case. Today we have seen that Jammeh ruled like the country for 22 years, and a lot of things has happened. But some are also saying, should it be a yardstick that after being involved in a lot of things, allegedly involved in a lot of these crimes, and all of a sudden you've been released, it's a debate out there, but will it not be a yardstick for others to stick more in power and do dirty things, and at the end of the day, they would still be free, they will still be pardoned also?
I think there are different circumstances. I think maybe each situation is really sui generis.
Indeed.
Each situation is really stands on its own. You have to take it for its merit and demerits and the like. So it's difficult to draw parallels when the histories, they are all completely different. But sort of when it involves serious criminal cases, maybe government should give their reasons. So no reason was given, just that it was dropped. Maybe there's more explanation that should come from
it was indeed a serious case. From the profile, he was part of the charges was a treason, which is a huge,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But maybe there's a balance between political stability and justice, I suppose.
Later, we might get a full picture of it.
It's all right. Stability is really more important.
Indeed.
I'm not sure, but sometimes sort of it might seem very difficult to swallow. Anyway, from governance and accountability, now we turn to another issue affecting the future of societies, preparing young people for work. Let's just take a look and listen.
For the Gambia, World Youth Skills Day serves as a reminder that the country's youthful population is its greatest resource. With thousands of young people entering the labor market each year, investing in skills development is crucial. The government of the Gambia has strengthened technical and vocational education and training institutions, providing practical training in areas such as tailoring, welding, plumbing, electrical installation, information and communication technology, agriculture, hospitality, and automotive mechanics, among others. Development partners have also played a significant role in expanding opportunities for young Gambians.
That's it, 15th of July, World Youth Skills Day. So how do you see it? Our current skills programs, are they matching up to market demands, I suppose?
Indeed, I think there's a lot of progress happening with the launch of various programs like the NYSS scheme, the youth empowerment projects, and a lot of projects out there. But equally as well, like the TVET programs as well, they are really intensifying, and I think it's important, they're preparing the young population for the job market, not only for the job market, but it goes beyond that, because there's a lot of happening like transformation in the technology side of it, which the country is trying to harness, digitalization. So I think it's important that we are heading towards this line. Actually, it's a gradual process. We will get there, but it's important.
That is precisely the point, isn't it? So we are teaching them all sorts of skills, sets, isn't it?
Yeah.
Be it in tailoring, IT skills and all the rest of it. But just as you said, now the market sort of would need people, employees who are digitally savvy, isn't it? So one wonders, how are they teaching them? How are they training them? Because this is the background. And we are told that now technology might make even certain professions obsolete. Are you taking that on board, just preparing for the long future?
Yeah, that is a fact, actually, more especially with the rise of AI. It is taking a lot of jobs. Today, like before, the job of a graphics designer was very important. But today, some people will just go to ChatGPT or other AI apps to design, though you can easily spot out to say this is AI. But it's important as well to understand that technology is not only here to take jobs, it's also here to make life easier. But it's also important to understand your area of work, your trade in what you're doing. Instead of fearing that AI or technology might take this, mastering it might help you to synchronize AI with your job. That is why technology is like the foundation for everything now, because people are using technology in agriculture, technology in building, and across all walks of life. So it is meant to make work efficient and more productive.
Absolutely. And just as it might take some jobs, it might make them obsolete, well, they also create new opportunities, as it were, for new
So I think
jobs,
what could be done there as well is awareness. A lot of awareness has to be done, like from the grassroots level, to prepare, our minds that, this is what you're going to face out there. If not, you become like, should I say, inactive, like in your job. You feel like, oh, with technology, I cannot thrive or this. So you need to see technology as a potential area, an investor you can work with to generate more income for yourself.
What new jobs would this new technology create? That's an area that is a debate of its own.
Indeed.
So now the thing is, you've got the skills. How do you turn it into businesses? This is what we've been talking about, entrepreneurship. A good number of programs, school programs would involve entrepreneurship, turning skills into businesses.
Yeah, it's important. You can create a market, even like with the same technology we are talking about. You don't need to go out and tell people, this is what I do, X, Y, Z. With just a simple TikTok account or a Facebook or an Instagram account, you can do a lot of business out there. Most of these platforms are created for that. It's just that people use it for the wrong reasons, maybe like posting pictures or fighting each other on social media. But they are created for this, to create networks for people. We live in a digital economy. This is the level the world has reached. In China, when you go there, sometimes you have 2 weeks national holiday, but the economy booms, it thrives because it's a digital economy. People don't move with money. Everything is in their phones. And if they want to make any transaction, book flights, book taxis, it's all in their phones. So imagine a taxi driver thriving on that. Imagine like a food vendor. We've seen COVID-19 come here, and when it came, a lot of systems have been introduced. Now with Wave, you don't have to struggle. Or kill money.
I said, but the negative bits, I'm afraid, human beings being what they are, that will always happen, because technology is really morally neutral.
Sure.
Depends on what you use it for.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Now we go to our final story. The world's biggest sporting event, the World Cup. We've now come to the final. Now let's just take a look and listen.
Spain and Argentina are preparing to battle for football's biggest prize on Sunday, 19th July 2026 at the New York, New Jersey Stadium. The 2026 tournament has marked a new era for international football. For the first time, the FIFA World Cup expanded from 32 to 48 participating nations, increasing the number of matches from 64 to 104. The competition has also been the first in history to be jointly hosted by 3 countries, Canada, Mexico, and the United States of America, bringing the world's biggest sporting event to 16 host cities across North America. The expanded format has delivered more opportunities for emerging football nations, while maintaining the tournament's trademark drama.
Nancy, we heard there Mamadou Gajaga, the QTV sports anchor. So that's it. It's been a month of drama, wasn't it? Everybody was talking about the World Cup. And finally, and actually, as we speak, the final is on.
Wow. I
so
imagine,
how were you following it? So tell me about your impressions of the World Cup.
What I am thinking right now is, I don't know which team you are supporting, but you seem to be very passionate about it, actually. I think it's a very important global showpiece. It has brought the world together, and it has seen a significant boom and growth from 32 teams to 48 nations to from 64 games to 104 games now. It has grown to another level, and it shows that football is actually a tool used to promote peace within the country, within the world, actually.
Granted, but some people have said that this expansion has sort of diluted the standard of the game. What do you think?
I think it depends on people's argument. Actually, they have the right to their opinions. Actually, but it depends on performance as well. If you perform well, you will thrive. We have seen various teams playing like. We have seen African teams, playing against major European teams, and they kind of gain victory against them. It's all about the performance you put in. But it's a mentality problem as well, because football has grown to a different level now. Like the football in Europe and the football in Africa is quite different. So you imagine why African teams are still suffering. Imagine Senegal versus England, or, Morocco versus, Spain. So the mentalities are not the same. But I think all in all, it's a very good global showpiece. It's helping to promote peace around the world. People are not sleeping now. Everyone is busy watching, football, watching the World Cup, watching their favorite team. So I think it's a very good thing. And I just hope by tomorrow, your team will be awarded the World Cup victory.
Tim, how do you know what team, the team I'm supporting?
Of course.
The team I'm rooting for. How do you know?
Everyone knows that. Everyone is supporting Messi.
No, I'm not into that.
Oh, okay.
But you mentioned something there about peace, bringing peace in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes, maybe for a month. And even though, we've had the World Cup in Mexico, US, and on Canada.
Indeed.
Well, in Iran, everywhere else, we've had wars. Sudan, Somalia, everywhere else.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really do that. It's too idealistic, don't you think? It maybe has the potential to promote peace, but the realities on the ground, I think there's too much of a claim. The claim is sort of too much. I'm not sure if football can deliver that.
Indeed.
I'm dampening the whole tone now.
It's arguable. It depends on how we define what is peace and to what level or to what extent can it do that. But today, we're talking about Messi. Everyone supports Messi, whether you are in Africa, Europe, in America. We are supporting, the goal is we are supporting football. We are not supporting like America or football is what is being played here. That is the goal in this case. And in doing so, people get to connect. People get to unite because of one person, because of a football team. So this is the point, actually, is the point.
Absolutely. And I'm sure that you'll have people supporting Messi, and after the World Cup, they'll go back to going to war. You're on side A, I'm on side B. We're killing each other, even though we just supported Messi. So, but Cape Verde, the surprising team, really.
Indeed.
They gain so many fans around the world.
Indeed, they have proven that, even small teams can make it. You just asked me the question, you just raised the question about like having a lot of teams and the quality of work going. But we have seen the likes of Cape Verde, they are really doing well. And it means Africa can really push to higher heights. In fact, we've seen a news with some authorities in Sierra Leone saying by the next World Cup, they will take it because of their new coach or so. So it's a mentality thing. Once we prepare ourselves, I think we can really get to that level.
Okay, I know that right now the match is on, Spain and Argentina.
Yeah.
We do not know what the score is. We recorded this on Saturday. So what do you think?
Hopefully by Monday you will celebrate. You'll tell me Messi has won it, and that's it, because I know you're a Messi fan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Usman Jata.
Yeah.
And thank you very much, viewers, for joining us. Until next time, goodbye.